Hey everyone, I'm Karen Walby Solomon, and welcome to What's IGN Crushing On, IGN Africa's official entertainment podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my producer and editor Rebecca Barches. So this is a show where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture with a new guest every week. We bring recommendations, news, and fun facts, sometimes touching on the more serious issues surrounding these topics. This week's guest is Dani Bagel. Dani is a classically trained musician who is releasing her debut EP, Magic in Her Hair, early next year. You might know her from her song Where Did We Go Wrong or Smoke and Mirrors with Gina Jeans. We spoke about releasing her music independently, what being sturvy means to her, and who her dream collab would be with. Dani is hilarious. She is so interesting, and we had such an amazing chat. She's extremely talented. She's a physiotherapist. She's a musician. She's an artist. She is like really beautiful. Like, honestly, what can't she do? But anyway, I don't want to keep you too long. Here's our interview with Dani. So hi Dani, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited.
It's so nice to finally meet you. I feel like we've been mutuals for so long that I haven't realized that I haven't actually ever seen you in real life. My word.
That does happen. I find, especially because I've been on Twitter also for so long. And I don't know, the thing about Twitter relationships and people that you interact with, I find you connect with their mind so intensely that when you meet them in person, what's quite weird for me is that I kind of run out of things to say quite quickly after I meet someone in real life, because you realize you've only interacted in you get it, sis. And then you're like, oh, we actually don't know anything about how's things. I don't know what your things are.
But you remember that they have a very problematic relationship with the ex-husband. You don't know what they do for fun, but you know
the innermost details.
Yeah.
100%. There's been a couple of affairs that I'm sure we've all been witness to, and we might have egged on mistresses ourselves. I don't know.
So how have you been this year?
I've been incredibly busy and blessed. I don't know how my year's been in comparison to any other person's, madness. But I will say I've kind of used to this level of chaos, I think. So when the world went into the pandemic, I was just like, oh, this isn't normal functioning for everybody. I thought this just felt like a normal Tuesday. Just like that level of uncertainty and, needing to always feel like you got to pivot onto the next thing. And I think that's just how I've always existed. So it's been interesting working alongside a world that's going through that as well, on that external. So I've used a lot of the time. I lockdown, I forced myself to work at things that I know I normally don't have time for, and it's nice. I feel like I've really gotten a grasp of the chaos, and now I'm just riding with it. So now, yeah, my life is pretty much excelled. And it feels weird to say. It's a weird survival skill, because I want to say that things are awful, but it's not. So
but it's not. It's good. No,
let me be grateful. Let me rather be grateful.
So what kind of things did you get to do that you weren't doing before, or that you didn't make time for before?
I didn't make time to think because I was so busy doing and being. So I didn't make time to feel. So I remember quite early into the lockdown, hard lockdown, I went into quite a hectic depressive episode, and I caught it in the second week. I was sitting on the couch and literally I was like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. I was like, I'm depressed. And it was as matter of fact as that. And then what is nice is I kind of just went straight into seeing my therapist and dedicating goals to work on, because I'm like, what else have you got to do, bitch, but face your demons? So there was like a good 3 weeks that I dedicated to crying as much as I needed to, and what was quite cool is that like my partner and I lived together, so it was almost having to negotiate with that person of like, I know I'm taking up all the crying time, do you need crying time, like, and that's like how granular we could become about understanding the building blocks. So I think this year I've spent a lot of time in just like understanding what my feelings are and what my reactions to things are, and learning to kind of let go of the judgment that comes with it, and learning to forgive myself faster, because it's very easy to become frustrated when you find yourself repeating certain exercises because you kind of go, I thought I was done with this task or this feeling. And the reality is like, it's as long as you participate in life, you can never escape it. So I think you just become a lot more skilled at like recognizing the places that you're at, and the only way you can do that is by like spending the time there. So I wanted to get my EP out, so that was also something that I definitely like put down as like a hard line, and it was one of those like universe coming into play, because the week that I thought that I wanted to do my EP, my executive producer walked into my house and he was like, I moved to Cape Town. And I was just like, you were the one thing. And then from there, we put everything in place. Like over the next like 5 weeks, even less, probably like 4 weeks, we managed to find a studio, get that work, record it, and now we're just in the point of rolling it out. So it's like, it's quite interesting how when you decide to do something, like the world just like, it's like, oh, okay, I've been waiting for you, so I kind of like spent a lot of that time like preparing myself, preparing my emotions, because I don't want to take for granted that people will always be like open to giving a shit about what I put out, because like you're not entitled to people caring. But at the same time, because I like collaborate with so many people that put their best into it, that's the benefit of things getting attention and things being celebrated, and that's the space that I wanted to push it from. But with that comes like very having to face like all those administrative tasks that I know I'm like not great at. Like I'm not that person to schedule things. I will plan the order, I'll tell you what the big picture is, but I have my team around me. Like I have people that I know are very good at things, and you're gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna, So it was a lot of executive planning in my brain, because I have ADHD. So there's a lot of my day is spent trying to arrange my thoughts in an order that's logical and practical. So I'm ADD and I'm like an uber Virgo. So like these two,
the Venn diagram
it intersects in the what the fuck are you trying to exist as? Because like the level of execution and detail and intention behind what I do is completely hijacked by the other parts of like my brain that's like, let's just go follow inspiration all the time, and then it never comes down to any practical things. So I actually have spent like a lot of this year forcing those two parts to marry, and stop forcing the part that's bad at doing the bad thing. So like I dedicated time to being creative, I dedicated time to working with people, I dedicated time to saying yes to projects or doing things for fun or doing other creative things, as opposed to like, oh, we've got an evening, let's just come up with a makeup look and then can we shoot it, and then now it's on Instagram, which is kind of what we were getting into before lockdown, where we got so used to like putting content out, because I take for granted the fact that I've got like a really high tolerance for work. So that just means that I put more work in. And then when you start getting like your ADD on like better control, because now your mental health is better, then you're just like, I waste less time and I get more projects done, so let's fill it with more projects. And like you forget that you need to rest as well. You need to think about how that experience felt. Did you like it? What did you learn from it? Was it a fulfilling thing? Do you want to, because I want to make sure that like those things are very much tied to the meaning of what we're doing now. COVID's forced you to really take stock of what matters. So that is a very long answer.
But it's a very good answer.
Realized that.
I thought you were going to say something like sewing or something, and you like super, super deep.
I think I spent my 20s doing all those nonsense things. And like, I just find myself, I turned 34 this year. And I kind of am like it's nice to be able to look and understand what my mind does, because that is where everything that we do is generated by this little soft tissue between your ears, and we spend so much of our adult lives, the minute we conscious and that self-awareness comes to the point of judgment, and now you've got things in your aspirations in your life that you should have had, but you got in your way and you hate yourself for it. And if only I wasn't like this, as opposed to like really, really fine-tuning the things that you excel at and then pitching up to that more on a regular basis. So I've spent like, because, I was a physio, that was my qualification. And I had a practice, and everybody around me was like so excited always that I, was my private practice. And I was like 24, 25. Gosh. And I was very proud of myself. I was very young. And that's what I wanted to do. I decided I wanted to be a physio when I was 10. And then that's what I always used to talk about doing, like a double major. I didn't even know what a double major was, but I was 10 years old and talking about doing double majors at varsity. The most pretentious little shit. And like, I was like, oh, I'm going to do a BMAS in jazz and I'm going to do physiotherapy, until one day, like, I met somebody that really went to varsity, and like, there's no way those two faculties will have a schedule that will allow this. They're like, they don't even exist on the same campus. Well, I was like, I don't know, but I'm just going to make it happen. And what's weird is that 10-year-old version of saying no, I studied physio, but I left music. I left my music when I was at the end of matric, because like I got my classical grades, I finished all my grades, and then the only thing left for me to do was post, in like your licentiate degree, your performance licentiate, and that kind of thing. And I was even going to just kind of take a complete detour out of classical music, because that was 100% my training. Even though like my family's background on both my mom and dad's side is deep rooted in jazz and gigs and, like West End and being there for, rehearsals. And, I spent like my childhood in those types of spots. And what is crazy is like when I left my physio practice, I realized I hadn't played piano since I started varsity. So that was like a good 8 years. And I used to play piano like several hours a day, and that was purely because I was like chasing the thing of like being a self-employed person. And then I left my dream because it wasn't going to provide me like that. Oh, you just have to be a physio and then like, don't worry about it. Everything else. I'm like, I don't have a retirement plan. I can't, I'm paying for my own, like cell phone allowance. There's no such, like all of those things. Paid leave. I was sick of, I didn't take leave in 5 years. No one told me that part, because I would be so petrified of like sleeping in on a Saturday and not locuming at another hospital, on another ICU, so you can get an extra couple of patients and then an extra $2,000 for the weekend, because like it's July and there's no more races, so none of your patients are hurting themselves and they stop coming to physio. And nobody told me that part. So I spent like 2 years at a time, like in 2 different venues. I was in a Virgin Active, I was in Canal Walk. Like I was thinking, surely even if I catch like 1% of the people walking through these doors, and the reality is like, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, like that's just the game of private practice, And that killed my ability to play and imagine and spend time in those dusty corners of my mind, like as a natural instinctive introvert. Like I really enjoy those parts of myself, that's where I recover. That's why coloring in was always like very therapeutic for me as a kid. I could just, fill a space and just kind of let my brain, I do believe it's like a form of meditation where you just kind of let yourself cycle from one thought to the next and reach that like, but in a space like physio, I realized like, I think I started seeing my therapist about a year or 2 before I left. And it was purely for the fact that I said, I spend so much of my day receiving energy. It's not two-way. I spend my whole day with people, but it's unidirectional. And it's very like, that's why I spend so much time on Twitter, funny enough, because it's the only time I spoke to other people. I couldn't speak to my patients about like, even the last patient, I couldn't talk to them about how stupid they were being or like inappropriate, And Twitter became like my co-worker space. Like you could log on and like go around the water cooler, and what's been quite cool there is like they've also become the same people that like are excited for me to do music. So I almost want to like make them proud. These people that I follow, and I'm like, I really want you to hear my song. I even tweeted about that. I was like, not in like a stupid like here's my single kind of way. I'm just like, you're the one person who I wanted to see jam to this, or like I want to see this in your makeup tutorial, and like as you're like dancing to the parts like with your headphones, like I like seeing that reaction, and that's something cool. Like I definitely like, because I find it so fulfilling, I just want to make it more and more time for it. And it's been nice to be dedicated to that, because I'm outside of that, like where the fuck's my structure? I don't know what that looks like. I spend 980 rand an hour waiting for someone to tell me, and I'm still
that 980 deep, like I need 980 rand.
Thank God for PMB. But I will say that 980 rand an hour cost me a lot less in the other nonsense that I waste. I used to waste my money, even when I went back to my therapist, my psychiatrist, and that was also something that was like a interesting journey, because like being in the medical field, I don't know why I never went to a psychiatrist, or maybe I just didn't find the right one, because I find them very clinical, very quirky and very clinical, which is like a weird to find someone that makes you feel settled,
Yeah.
And eventually I found this one who to my knowledge is like one of two Black female psychiatrists, and that was one of the first things that I said. And I'm like, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I'm so glad you're Black because there's so much I can just high jump over. Like when I talk about the patriarchy, I feel like you understand me. And anyway, fast forward. So I started like a different medication regimen, and things felt like it was working, and kind of just giving it time. And the one thing I was able to report back on is like I waste less money on impulse buying in my clothing, because when I'm shopping now, I have a much better understanding of like what's in my cupboard and why I want this item. Because then I've literally got bags of clothes that still have tags on it. Because when I bring it home, I'm like, what was this piece what was I imagining? Which Pinterest board was I going through in my head, And that I've come to understand is overstimulation. It's my senses are so overridden. I'm so, enveloped in the experience that now like just choosing between like a very poorly structured, cheap like chiffon sleeve, and you're just like, you don't need this, and I can say you're right and put it back.
So tell me, like, how did you get back into playing piano after the 8 years or so?
Sure, no, but I've been playing piano since I was 5. So it's like, imagine like you just haven't read novels in a while, and then you just pick one up. It will take you a while. Like once you start, you almost find like your tenacity to get through to the end. Like you actually need to motivate yourself quite a bit. It's easy to take a few breaks, check your phone. But what was the most difficult was not having a piano at home. And so I think last year or the year before, I got like a nice bonus. So then I bought myself a piano. And what's so wild is like, if I look through my Twitter for a good 8 years before that, I was just like, I used to tweet, like envision and manifest this piano in my apartment one day, or like, oh, this apartment needs a piano. And I managed to get myself one, and it's just like been the best addition. It's like, it feels like my home, because then what's nice now is that like I can put my headphones in and I'm working till whatever time, and then I force myself to play like very, very, very ambitious Chopin pieces. It's just I don't know where the fuck I'm expecting myself to play these highly elaborate. I mean, I just want to impress myself a little bit. I like doing scales. I've got long fingers. So it's been nice. Like I will just come and I'll play on a Tuesday, and for like 3 hours I'll just play like all my old classical pieces, and and it's very nostalgic. And what's so crazy is like so much of it I've spent probably in like my matric, grade 10, 11, 12. We were doing like a lot of Eisteddfods and performances like that, where you don't really perform with the books. You would just kind of either go from memory or just like have somebody there in case. And I had this one page that I'd lost, and I've only got pages 2 to 11, but I can play everything on page 1 like by memory. But ask me to do the rest, I can't. It's like, it's so weird, like so much of that is just like entrenched in my fingers. So yeah, that's my return to it. Go back to Mrs. Dippenard's class in grade 4.
So tell me your story. So are you like born and bred Cape Townian? Like
I've spent most of my life in Cape Town. My mom's from Bagel South, so that's my mom's side of the family. And then my dad is from Chatsworth in Durban.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so their families were very good friends through music. And my parents have known each other since childhood. So they were like teenage sweethearts, got married. Mom moved to Chatsworth, very light-skinned, blue-eyed, colored girl. People thought she was white. It was an experience. And then Chatsworth, moved to Cape Town. I went to Holy Cross Pre-Primary in Bagel. And then for primary school, and then back to Cape Town for high school. So it's been quite a bounce around. But I would say like the childhood I remember was spent a lot of time in PE schooling wise, because that's where like my accent got evened out, because when I was in Bagel, I saw like my grade 1 books and it was like, we did go to the park, we did play with the ball, we did go to my uncle's house. Like, that's exactly how I spoke. And then my mom was like, when you started at Clarendon Park, you were just like, raw, you are. It's just like, you sounded like you're chewing elastic bands. Like, I couldn't understand you. But yeah, that's what you mean.
So why did you decide that, I think you kind of answered this before, but I just want you to go into more detail, but deciding that, I want to follow this musical route now, like at this stage in your life?
I'm childless and I have time. That's exactly how I make decisions. I make decisions like that. Even when I started my practice, I was working for one of like the nationals. So like you have like Sevens rugby, whatever. And so I used to work for the physio there. And I was like, you haven't run this man's business into the ground. Like, go open your own business. And so I just like do things recklessly with a lot of Virgo overthinking applied. And somehow it's working out. But yeah, no, the music came. I always knew I was going to make time for it. About 4 years back, when I was still working with my previous label, they were just like, "Oh, let's just try do something. Throw a song out." And then the song took, and then it's been played. It's still playing on radio. It's 4 years later, and I was just like, okay, I guess if somebody likes this, let's just keep going. And that's about as technical as I can get with this quote unquote music thing, until it comes with paid leave and a pension plan. I don't know how much it's going to see of me. I like my corporate benefits.
So, I mean, like, speaking of Where Did We Go Wrong? Like, I love that song. And you just
yeah, it's a good song.
So was that like your first like feelers into the solo music space?
Well, that was the first time I ever really sang on a song. What's so weird is that I really don't like my singing voice. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't have a terrible voice, but I don't have the greatest voice. And what's so weird is like singing for me was, if I think back, it's probably been around as long as I've performed with piano, except I've just got, this is the problem with me, is that I like to be the best at things, right? So when I was playing piano at school, there was very few kids that could be better than me, because like I was like really fucking good, right? But I couldn't sing the highest, and at the time Mariah Carey was like obviously the benchmark, or like this very powerful voice, and that's what you know what I'm saying? It was Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston. Like, there wasn't anything else that existed as far as female singers like probably like Anita Baker. Like, that's what my parents are listening to, So now here I come with like this cute little, it's like cute. And I never really considered that. So the funny part with like the singing is I always used to harmonize. I was in choir a lot. I think being in choir definitely gave me the confidence to the musical background and understanding of like the voice is an instrument, because I'd only consider piano an instrument, and then you just sing. If you sing it, you sing. But the voice is an instrument as well. So I got like a lot of training in that way without realizing it formally. That a lot of time in choir, a lot of time in theater at school. Like we were always part of like productions and stuff. Because I was like really a nerd, and like what was cool is that the music was always just like my little safe haven. I used to bunk class so often, and I used to play the system because like I was top of my class in the music throughout high school, but I never went to any of my theory classes because I was bored. I think it was probably just like ADD again, getting in the way without me knowing. And I just was like, oh, why do I need to learn all this history? Like, it's so below me. I was like such a cocky shit. But I used to bunk those classes and just go play my music in the other room and be left and then say, oh no, I've got this really important I stayed for that I'm actually preparing for, and people just used to buy it. And they'd leave me alone for hours, So this music thing, my singing, I really am very shocked that people like my songs with genuine appreciation, because I'm like, how could you like it that much? Like, it's cool. You can say like you like it a little. I like it a little, at least a little. That much, like, okay. No, I'm joking. I must say, I will compensate in the fact that we make good music. I make good songs. I don't have to be the greatest singer, but I make good music. I know what good music sounds like. So I think that's the recipe.
Okay, so let's talk about Magic in Her Hair. So how did you come up with the title? What is the thinking behind it?
That's been about 4 years in the making, where I came up with the idea. I had this vision in a meditation once. My teacher was talking to me about it, adopting the energy of a hummingbird, which is always in a state of flux, but is still, And I don't know how we started getting into that. I think he was probably just giving me like life advice, just like maintain your calmness and anchoring, in your chaos. And then I had this image of a person sitting on a throne, or myself sitting on a throne, like hand feeding this hummingbird. And I had these 2 Dobermans next to me, and I was sitting on the top of a head of this like mermaid looking, I just had like this weird, it almost looked like the Michael Jackson, that's not Thriller, it could be the one in 1992. Is it Fantasy? No, that's Mariah Carey. It's the one where he's got his, you just see the eyes and where the Bubbles the monkey and like that whole.
I know what you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's very like Salvador Dali type of like surrealism. And then I got fixated on the idea of like this hair and the throne, and then I was like, wait, no, your hair is the crown. And then I went into this whole like political tangent of the fact that like women's hair is highly politicized, that it must be covered, or what it means when it's more curly, or what does professional hair mean, so like there was that type of element of the hair identity part. But the whole idea is that like out of the 5 songs, they're in completely different tangents. And through different hairstyles, you can embody like a completely different persona. So when my hair is in a high pony, like I automatically have like more sass, in my shoulders. Or when my hair is like, I've received like the Julia Roberts comparison like my entire life. So like, and it's like a little bit wilder and like scrunched dry. Like, am I a little bit more rough and tumble, but still cute and like, put together and ladylike, So that's kind of what I wanted to embody. And then also the magic in her hair, especially because Mike and I shoot so much together. I wanted to unfold the magic of hair and how it transforms the persona and the visuals, and how it influences even creative direction on a shoot. You'll see on my Instagram for a couple of months ago, as to like different hairstyles. And then like I've got a bob, and all of a sudden I'm like Betty Boop cute, and then I've got one that's like more wild, and like the shirt's open. It's like, are you going to see a nipple? You're not quite sure. It's like, this hair makes me want to show one of them. So yeah. And then even one where we put I put eyelashes on my face to make a monobrow, like a unibrow. And I wanted to be like, we always say like mustaches and eyebrows, over unplucked eyebrows like look very ugly. So I was like, can you still be good looking? Like, can I still be sexy? Can I still exude like confidence? And automatically people, when they see the monobrow look, they automatically thought it was like a Frida Kahlo thing. And I was like, that's kind of cool that like, it speaks to the strength of her as an artist, that just her physical, natural, like signature is nobody else can see anything else when they see a monobrow. And here, like, even though like you can't get away from that, but I can't say that was the point of the inspiration behind the shoot. Like, even in my head, there was only one shoot where I had it like up in a bun, and I was like, no, that looks too much like Frida. I want to do something completely different. And automatically, just by putting this brow on, having like thicker, heavier makeup, I had like just like this thrifted suit that I bought, and I was like, let me be a dude and shoot me as a guy. Like, how would my posture change, you know? And those are all the types of things that I want to connect to in the process of making music. Like, I am very privileged and a little stupid to not be a signed artist because it's very expensive and it's very time consuming to put these things together organically. But I must say, like, that is the payoff for me. The song that you guys hear on the other side, or the project that comes out on the other side of this, is a little bit of just like this. It's an inevitability of me just playing with all the Lego pieces. So like, I go to the one person and be like, empty your box and let's see what this goes. And so with Magic in a Hair, I've got an piano track. I've got an R&B track. I've got like this, I don't know, Janet Jackson type dance track. I've got like a very vulnerable sweetener, you know, Ariana Grande style, get well soon, you know. And those are all things that, like, I don't know if there's a market for it. I've never asked. I've never asked if there's a market for me. But I'm inspired by the likes of Beyonce and J-Lo that are there, being moms of 3. And they're not needing to be like any disqualifier based on that, you know? Because there's always a lot of power in being independent, because you really don't have to answer to anybody other than like, do you feel like doing this? If you do, then go see it through. But now when I see my friends who are signed or are getting budgets thrown at them, like, there's just like, you look at them and I'm like, you don't get excited about your stuff as much as I can. And that's something that, like, I don't know how much you'd have to pay me for me to not like want to have that payoff as well, you know, for you to buy that from me. So yeah.
Do you think it's also like like it's also better payoff, like having so much control over things? Like you understand the process.
If you're a control freak, 100%. That's very nice and comforting.
Because I'm just thinking, like, you don't know what other people are doing with your stuff. And at least with you, like, when you're independent, you know what I mean? You have a say in every aspect.
Yeah. You know, I don't know how I'm ever gonna be able to be comfortable. Like, I don't know what that partnership's gonna look like for me to want to feel comfortable in handing it over. So in when it comes to the control, I learned in 2 very weird instances with people that were really considered friends, you know. And you hear this, like, it's such bullshit. It's like the short skirt argument. It's not the what did you expect, it's how the business goes. Like, you go there hoping that there's like people that are in it for the right reasons, and the motivations are as noble as yours, but that's also the lesson. Like, you just need to get the fuck over yourself, and the world isn't as idealistic as you hope, and you just gotta get some street smarts, bitch. So unfortunately, that is the world of business. You have to protect your assets that way, because that's all you are. You are a sellable thing. There was, as much as people can be like, oh, out of the goodness of friendship and just the fact that I saw your potential, I wanted to make a song for you and put it on the radio for you and watch you grow. No, bruh, you are owning half of that fucking thing. You are getting the royalties paid out. There is another slice that you just conveniently putting an administrative fee on top of it, and then you cutting, and then you buying us Gatsby's and telling us it's on the label's account, which is part of the fucking royalties that $1.50 I've earned is now paying for 25 cents of those chips. I didn't ask for chips today. You know, like, that's how petty this thing is. So what happened to me and how I needed to make this EP is that I didn't have any music after I left the last group of people I worked with. I was there for like 2-3 years. And it was just like a lot of, unfortunately, I work in a company, in a corporate, that taught me how to, unfortunately, work in a very stringent manner. Like, it's a multinational, it's very regulated, and I've learned what processes and protocols, and they're there for a reason, because there's a level of accountability that you can trail back if you understand who's handling what, and not just we've taken a decision. Because when it comes down to it, and I ask the we, no one person can answer for my stuff, because oh, I thought you had it, oh, I thought he had it. I don't need that anymore. So anyway, it was a question of wanting to get the music that I had recorded from this place, and they were like, oh, it's gone, we formatted the hard drives, and yeah, sorry man. And I'm just like, what do you mean? That's, you feel like somebody like knocked your ice cream out your hand. It's that level of disappointment, and you're just like, really? You can't get that? You can give me another ice cream, I guess. And then like another instance was, I'd recorded a song and it was so cool, and it was like snapping, got all the timestamps from the snaps, and then it just went cold for 2 months, and following up and like, hey, do you still like it? And I'm happy if I'm not the singer, I really love the song, I want the bass for it. No, it's still. And then 2 months later, you hear the beat on radio and it's a completely different person. And then it has 10 million views on YouTube. And you're like, what the fuck, motherfucker? You didn't tell me. And then there's like this whole like ambiguity around rewriting. And it kind of sounds similar to what you did, but not enough for you to be able to claim. And so I was just like, that's never going to happen again if I can help it. So created a label. A friend of mine works in the music industry, and he's just like, by the way, you're going to see some emails come into your inbox. I've opened a business for you. You were like, here's your label. Congratulations. I'm like, what? He's just like, I know you'd never do it for yourself. I know you need it. I know how to do it. And the next thing you know, Dani Bagel Music exists, and I now own my royalties. I'm never going to be Taylor Swift crying that my stuff gets sold for $300 billion or 300 million without you asking me, or you did ask me and I didn't want to buy my own shit back for 300 more. Because that's what happens. Like, you just there to make somebody else money, and now I'm that somebody else. I am my label, I am my publisher, I am my artist. And the beauty of having the control I have now is I can work with people purely out of an emotional connection, if that is what the payoff is that like, I want to work with my friend Karen, and then we're going to do a song together, and it can be shit, but I get to choose that it still sees the light of day. And then we've got a little fan group of both of us, and they get to be happy. And that's what I can cater for, And I think having that type of approach will mean I'm going to make music till I'm like 60. I'm going to be worse than Madonna.
Perfect. No, that's exactly what the world needs. Dani Bagel for another 50 years.
I just say I want to work till however much I can comfortably afford J-Lo's bill. That's all. I just want to know what the bill costs, and I want to just be able to swipe whatever that bill is that gives you that Instagram. I just want it for myself, even, because she cannot lie to me and say that like kale and exercise is what gets you there. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Kale and exercise.
You're lying.
So do you think it's difficult for new artists to navigate the South African music industry? Because I mean, I'm hearing this now, what you said, like about how, your ideas were ripped off, and sometimes, and you feel like you didn't get what was due to you. And I've heard AKA talk about something similar as to why he started his own like record label, because he felt like, he wasn't, he was doing all this work, but like other people kept benefiting off of it, and he had to like ask for money every time he wanted to do anything, even though he was constantly working. So I was like, do you think it's like what advice would you give to new like musicians trying to make it in the industry?
It's quite difficult to give advice when there is no established structure. So the more I learn about this industry, the more scared I become of the fact of like how little structure exists, how little accountability at an establishment that has a set of rules that we all agree to.
Yeah.
I would say the best advice I could give somebody is go on Google and understand what licensing is. Understand what splits and royalties are, because it's very, very easy. Like, I can see the times where I became the most like taken advantage of is where I was just like, I'm just doing it for the love of it. And like, I shit you not, even as late as last year, like, that was my answer. I'm like, I don't care. People can take my music. They can have it for free. And then I was like, actually, I take my time more seriously than that.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a lot of time. That's the other part. I was taking my time for granted because I had more time in my hands. Now I've got more responsibilities. I'm at a stage in my life where I'm like, I want to be a mom and still be in music, but like, I can't fuck around with my own time if I'm not going to be accountable to kids one day, you know? So how do I get better at this now? That's kind of that conversation. And people that's starting in the industry need to know how to organize their work. That's something that wastes a lot of your time, is understanding how to maintain communications. So all these things in music is kind of irrelevant for like whether or not you've got the skill, whether or not you've got the passion, whether or not people want to hear the type of creative ideas you put forward. You already kind of know that. The fact that you're thinking it means that you've already confirmed it to yourself that you've got a creative opinion that can stand shoulder to shoulder, right? Yeah. Because if you don't have that to begin with, then what the fuck are you doing? You're actually just here looking. You must go into idols and then have someone be like, this isn't your dream, but keep at it. Like, that's actually what you need, right? Because you don't need what actually comes with putting your shit out there and being told that, what are you doing? We've heard this before, kind of thing. But on a process level, definitely learn that nitty gritty. Be able to know enough of the basics that when a media company is like, can we use your song in a campaign, but we're going to pay you an exposure, you're like, that's cool, exposure is going to come with royalties, but you also need to pay a sync license, motherfuckers. And that will change depending on which platform and how long and how many people hear it and who's going to, you know, because otherwise you're going to think you're going to have the best deals, everybody's going to love your stuff, and it's just like, no, you're just free. You're free and you're willing to do the work, you know. And then on a music creative, I would say any person new, do not be shy of exposing yourself to artists. You know what good music works for yourself. You know what style that you want to do. If you don't, and you're trying to sound like Travis Scott, my sweetie pie, sorry, no. Because we've got Travis Scott in the world.
Yeah. My sweetie pie.
Forgettable. Okay. Yeah, my sweetie pie. Shame. And I feel bad. Like, there's so, you know what the problem is that fucking cell phones have made such an unrealistic idea of what your success can look and feel like. You know. You can have a career being a millionaire, opening cardboard boxes and really pretending you're like practicing your excited face. This smells so good. Like, you can literally become a millionaire of like caricatures and skits of like reveals. It's like a very mark, you know.
Isabel Jones.
And Isabel even had to commit to more than just the same. She had to commit to more than 15 seconds on screen.
Sorry,
but the issue,
I won't deny it.
A bitch made me want to buy a pan. I'm not gonna lie.
Sorry, no, you're saying the issue.
The issue is that there is going to be a lot of kids that is going to be forced to perform for millions and millions and millions of followers. And then once these trends run dry, you're going to have a couple of million people going, and now show us more, do more things. What else you got? You know, because there's this expectation. And the problem is that when you haven't truly given yourself the time to be alone and to be a loner and to be the nerd and to be the rejected one and to be the unrequited love and to be like all of those roles that create depth and that resilience that's required to tell somebody else's story in a believable way. Where Did We Go Wrong was not written by me. And what I love so much about that track is that like there's so many people that are like, what were you going through? Does the person know that you wrote it about them? And I'm like, I purposefully took that song because it told my story so uncomfortably well. And I'm like, but then that means it can tell anybody's story uncomfortably well. And I was like, and that is something I want to replicate as much as possible in the process, because what else are we there for? Like, love came from above, big fucking whoop. You know, versus I don't recall what life was before you pitched up, and then I started to fall, and all of a sudden one night later, like, my life's different, and then you fucked off. Now what? Where's my closure? You know, it's an elusive thing, you know. So that's something that, like, I have a lot of fun with, because like at my core, I'm an artist. My whole life I've tried to, I wasn't very confident in expressing myself or articulating myself because my emotions and my hyperactivity and impulse control don't allow me to place my thoughts in order. Medication, I'll be an advocate. It's honestly like, it's like trying to drive without glasses, if that's what you think. Like, raw dogging life with ADHD is like, because anxiety is just my worst. It's my worst accelerant on my mouth, and I feel you becoming more anxious, and then I try and qualify more interesting facts, and then you just try to look at the door, and I'm trying to be funnier, and then I'm the only one laughing. And but the issue there is, like, I've got so much to say, and I've got so many feelings I feel, and I've got so many ways that I've experienced these feelings in so many different ways. But like, how do I tell that story once and have you as a complete stranger connect to me? And that for me is like ultimate hard mode. You know, I feel like if you are a writer in a book, you can have a couple of paragraphs, but music is like, it's like poetry, you know, on extreme levels, where now you've got to like match your voice doing a thing that makes the word even more yearning, you know. It is, and that's kind of good.
Oh my gosh.
Say again?
I'm like, it sounds so difficult. Oh my gosh.
And it kind of is. Like, it isn't easy. And I think people that go into music thinking that they're just going to be this never-ending pool of melodies and ideas, and it's just like, you don't understand yourself. Like, you are a finite human with finite life experiences, and the worst fucking part is that once you work through your shit, you got nothing to write about. Like, the other day I was out on a walk on the mountain, and I was finding things in my brain to be sad about, because like I wanted inspiration to write a sad song. And then I was like, I've been going to my therapy so much, and I'm like so at peace with shit. And now I don't know, I've got no inner turmoil. Like, what is this? And I even said to Mike, I'm like, come, let's just break up, so I've got like something to feed my sadomasochistic tendencies. Like, why do we get excited every time Adele has like a failed relationship, or Drake? Like, and that's the other fucking part. Like, that's the problem I have with the music industry, is that I'm like, we lost Amy Winehouse once, guys.
Yeah.
You know, like, they are human beings and real relationships and real hearts, and like, we're very sensitive souls. Like, we're already like such drama queens. Now to do that in front of millions and millions and millions of people, I really feel sorry for TikTokers now that have tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of thousands of people that are expecting for you to make me feel excited, or feel something, because I don't care about you. You know, do the thing, do the thing, savage. Like, you know, I don't know.
I think like the best example of that is that TikTok of that girl dancing while crying.
100%. If anything, that is the one meme I connect to the most, where you just like, no. It's like, that's me getting up for work on a Tuesday.
I actually want to do talking about like the social anxiety thing. I was reading up about your song Sturvy. And it's like, as a socially anxious, shy human being, I was like, I've never related to an explanation better.
I think there's a lot of colored girls who have wrongfully been labeled Sturvy. And the problem with Sturvy is that it's so powerful that you got no comeback, because now the issue that already plucked on the sturviness for me was just the fact that I spoke differently, you know. When I moved to Cape Town, I was end of grade 6, and the first thing, I was so excited because it was the first time I saw other colored kids in my class. I was the only colored kid. I was the only colored, definitely the only Indian mixed, right? It was either that or it was black. So those were the non-white. That was the non-white entry into the school. So when I came to Cape Town, and for the first time at 12, going on to 13, I saw there were other colored children. I was so fucking excited at the idea. And the worst thing I could have done is come speaking like a whitey and be smart. The worst, like, it was the worst thing, because then now I was like similar, like beating the top class, the top kid. Now they're like, you're the new kid. How can you come in and just like beat us at exams? I'm like, but I've done the last semester, you know, like you guys are learning about the islands now. Like, okay, cool. It's not that hard. Like, I'm writing this test twice. And I thought, and what was the shame, I was so naive, but like, because at my school that I came from, like the smart kids were really celebrated, and they were really like, ended up being the prefects, and the prefects were like the rock stars, and that's what you wanted to be. When I went to Para North Primary, and they were just like, what do you mean you like want to be a prefect? I was shook. But yeah, the sturvy part, it makes you even more closed off. It makes you even more scared of yet another label or another insecurity that they're going to see through and pick out in front of a crowd. Because like nobody can rip you apart like a group of colored kids, like, because they go extra.
It's also like as you're saying, there's no comeback, because the whole basis of being sturvy is like based on what other people's perceptions of you. So you can't say,
so you can't correct it,
because you don't know their levels of
you don't get to say.
They're like, yes, no, you are. According to my thermometer of sturdiness, you are sturdiness.
Exactly. And you know what, that song was such a tongue-in-cheek song where I was like, it's such a ridiculous idea to even have the word sturvy have meaning. It's such a dumb word. It's such a dumb sounding word. And so when we were singing, so I was writing this with Patty Monroe, and I was like, I want to write a song which is the Sturvy Bitch anthem, but also the song actually is about the fact that I don't have time for sturvy bitches as well. So the chorus is a cheat sheet, quick bitch, cut a cheap bitch, which is like, here's the answers. If you come in sturvy with air kisses and hey doll, hey babe, I'm like, I don't have time for you. And then while I'm just like, that is not my thing, I'm going to do my thing, which is just really mind my own business and be this weird, like, whatever the fuck I want to define myself as, old bitch doing music, if that's what you can call it as. I'm like, then I'm going to be that, and I'm going to piss you off while I'm here. Like, so that's where, like, it became, we wrote it from a point of almost like being bullied at school, where they kind of call you names. So that's why it's like, ooh, you still pissed. Ooh, you still have your bitch. So it's kind of mocking in a way, but I was like singing it to myself, and now like it's a really empowering song, because now it's like, if you tell me I'm sturvy, I'm like, okay, I know that about myself. Is there anything else? Like, because I'm over that part. Like, I've processed that part many years ago, and I know it's not me. I'm just very scared of you. I'm scared of myself and what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna be silly, and you know, and it's just like, it's a lot of judgment, self-judgment, you know, limiting yourself. And funny enough, sturvy, I think, came before testing, if I remember the writing order correctly. And the best part about testing is that that song was really just about like giving yourself permission to try things. I'm not sure, but I'm in, like, let's just dive in. Like, that's kind of just the testing the waters, testing the mic, testing the space, testing your environment, and just being like, the outcome and the beauty of doing things can't be because of the guarantee of it being great when you come out. It's that adoration and the promise that people are going to be excited that you've released music now for the first time. I didn't have that promise. I don't have that promise. What I do have is the promise of making sure that I enjoy the process. And and taking stock of the fact that I'm trying, or the fact that I'm actually doing music. Like this, what's so weird to me is like people congratulate me on a regular basis, like, it's so great, you're doing your thing, man, you're doing music, man. And I'm like, but would you congratulate yourself for like taking a shower? Okay, I want to say yes, because like when you have depression, sometimes you forget those. So, but I mean, just like things that are just so normal to you, you know. And I find it's quite interesting that like it's never been a thing of me to not know what my thing is. Music's always been my thing. Creativity's always been my thing. So I've never lived a life without that. And it's quite interesting, and I feel empathy for people that don't have it, because they're so excited for my behalf, and I'm just like, I almost want to give you some of mine, you know, like, because it almost feels like you've got like a little bit of this vacancy that you're aware of in your life, and you don't know what else you can fill in that makes you as fulfilled as what you think music makes me. You don't see when I'm crying, and I'll be like, what am I trying to do with this? You know, like, who's gonna listen to my music? I was just like, you know, it's the typical like artistic breakthroughs and breakdowns you go through. And I don't know if people would be as excited for themselves if that's what they realize comes with the process of pursuing. That's probably why they don't achieve it, because when they get to that point, they're like, oh, fuck this, I'm out, it's too hard, it's not part of what I signed up for. And I'm just like, I know what it's like crying and playing my scales before an Ice Stedford. Like I used to cry, like I used to cry all the time, you know, but I also used to be on the stage. So I think I've had like this life of like pushing myself and pitching up to that performance, whether or not you remember to practice, or because at the end of the day, the show must go on, you know. And I think that just like cultivates like the type of mindset that you have with anything. I can't even remember what question you asked me. I feel like I've been going in circles with just these highly philosophical answers. I'm sorry.
But I want to ask, so tell me about the testing music video. Like,
oh my god,
what can we expect?
that music video. You can expect. So, do you obviously know Simon Orgel from Twitter, and also just like his amazing comedic sketches and stuff. And when we wrote this music video, the song, sorry, there was already like a very high level idea that I wanted to execute. And from the music being written, it starts off very like safe and pop. And then by the second verse, it's got more groove, and you're loosening up until it hits like this flip. And then all of a sudden now you're in the jaw. And from the time we were writing this, I'm like, I want to see Simon pitch up at 0 to 1 and be a little bit nervous about how he's there, you know, like, and just kind of have this, embody the experience and the space, whatever. Long story short, shame we couldn't get him. I know I'm like setting up a huge disappointment, but I didn't want to let go of the idea of drag, because I'm like a big supporter of drags in Cape Town. Like I love seeing them. Like Bertha's is a firm favorite, and I'm always so taken aback by their performance, by just the passion, just the fact that they leave their all on the stage. Like I do not have that ability. I am in awe of that ability to just unzip your bullshit and just put on a fucking show. Like I'm still there, like 2 hands on the mic, nervously singing, looking out the corner of my eye, like I'm on like talent, what's it, Star Stage. Do you remember that on your TV? Star Stage. Anyway, so I really desperately wanted to showcase like drag queens in Cape Town. So I managed to get in touch with Maxine, and she's a transgendered like makeup artist and drag performer. And I wanted to really be able to give the LGBTQ space like a celebration in an artistic way. I wanted to showcase like the happiness and the freedom and the playfulness and the sexiness and the flirtation that comes with that space. And just a celebration also like of diversity. So I made like this little invite, and I was like, secret music video. And I just like sent it to a whole bunch of people. Like I just dropped DMs and stuff on Twitter, shooting my shot, and really messaging someone, be like, I'm obsessed with you and your whole vibe. Please be in my music video, kind of thing. And so I literally have people that the first time I met them was like properly, but I in the back of my mind kind of made them like the central vision of the aesthetic of what I hoped everybody else came to be. And like I just spent a lot of time manifesting this cast. So we have people in kitten ears and feathers and face jewels and nipple art. Okay, no, we actually had to take those seeds out. But I lived out my fabulous, most like gayest stripper dreams. And also what's quite cute is the music video's got two, myself and Maxine as the lead. And testing is also kind of like a little bit of a bisexual anthem as well, because testing 1, 2 and testing the waters. I'm not sure, but I'm in. I think I should dive in. So it was kind of like a little bit of like a cute playfulness of like, here's also like a different way that you could interpret the song in like a very cute, naughty, you know, take the plunge. If that's where I'm at, are you in the queer space? So it was kind of like being able to blend all of those elements together in the story. Because like one thing I really, really do like is when you see the music video, there's going to be so many layers to it. You can watch it for the story, you can watch it for the fashion, you can watch it for the just like the ridiculousness of it. And then you will see people that you know, or you'll see a person that you're like, oh, that reminds me of my friend so and so, or like, wow, that's an unforgettable. But what for me the coolest was my sister's in it with my niece in her belly. So like my sister's like 100% my Solange, like she will fight in an elevator for me, like 100%. And I said to her, like, wouldn't it be cool if you could do like your pregnancy reveal? Because it was around the time that she wanted to do a reveal announcement. And I was like, that's the way that our niece is going to be announced to the world, is like she's going to be in a music video. I'm like, that's a pretty badass way. Like in 20 years time when we're going to be in like kind of embarrassing her with the friends, be like, back in my day, I used to be a pop star. And they'll be like, here's your music video, bitch.
That's brilliant.
So like, as you can see, like I package all of these experiences for myself to revisit time and time and time again, because like that's what I do with the stuff I like. I listen to Frank Ocean's music with as much vigor as I did, you know, like 8 years ago, 7 years ago when I was first introduced to it. How long was that? 8 years ago, yeah, 2012, 2011. And I hope that that's the type of stuff that I get to make. Like if people who like fucks with my vibe mustn't do it only on one level, because like you're gonna burn through my shit like way too quickly.
Yeah,
you know, there's a connection, there's a link, there's an unfolding, there's like, come listen to it again, you're gonna hear it with a different appreciation of this part of the vocal, like, oh, you didn't hear it like that. Like I love that kind of thing. And those are the types of fans and followers and people who I want to connect with through my music. Like that's what I want to cultivate more than anything.
So who would you say like your dream collab would be with?
Oh, if it's a dead or alive, I will say Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
Amy Winehouse. I will say that, like, that I don't even flinch anymore with that question. She's just somebody, you know, she really changed my mind about how I felt about, not changed my mind, she affirmed what my mind was feeling about being famous and the pursuit of fame alongside your art. Like you see any of her old documentaries and she's like raw as hell, and she's like, I don't give a fuck about this, like I just want to make my music, like leave me alone in a bar, like I just want to sing to my drunk old friends. That is 100% my thing, you know. I mean, for all I know, I could just be a complete failure and that will be my lifelong path, is just singing to my 5 drunk friends in a bar. I'm joking. But it's just like when I see stories like that, like I just see it's like a lesson of taking care of yourself and taking care of your gift, you know. And I would love to spend time with Amy Winehouse in just like, I don't even think I would collab with her. I just want to be in studio while she's recording. Like, I don't think any of my people who I would want to collab with, I would have the guts to open my mouth. Like, even so I didn't tell you, but Jimmy Nevis is actually the director of my music video, which is a really cool flex. But like, he's a very good friend of mine and someone like I really look up to. Like, he's younger than me, but there's just like this level of like maturity and wisdom and guidance that I find in like this person. And the worst part though is that like, while he's my brother that's like chilling in his sluffies at his gym wear, he just starts singing. or he sings with me while I'm humming something, and then I just shut up because I'm just like, how dare I even try?
Oh my
when you just go,
gosh.
can you imagine? I'm like, it's actually quite rude of you. I'm like, we get it, you sing cool, okay, fine, like fine. And that's so like that happens with so many of our friends that like hang out, because what I love so much about this space is I really get to collaborate with my favorite people. I don't know if there's any idealistic artist that I'm just going to be like, when I pitch up with you, you're going to make my dreams come. Maybe Snow Allegra and Doja Cat. I think Doja Cat, Doja Cat would be, I would love to work with Doja Cat. Yeah. Because she's also a little weird. So I think that's what I want to collaborate with, is just be like, how weird can things get if we put ourselves in a room and like let's just see how far we can go. Like that's the type of people I want to work with. But outside of that, like, sure, it's such a let me just leave it at that. I'll say Doja Cat for the vibes.
So would you say, like, similarly to this question, like, who would you say are your biggest musical influences?
So I really found Corinne Bailey Ray when I first started. She was the first person that really taught me that like you could sing soft and it's cute and people will still like it. And then now, like we track forward, like 20 years, we have Billie Eilish. So it depends on the genre of music, but I will say there's very few times I can say I've got an influence of music, because when I'm listening, so like for the EP, I was listening to a heck of a lot of Kanye West Sunday Service, like a lot, and a lot of Ariana Grande. But when I'm listening from a purpose of being influenced, I'm listening like very technically. So like when I was listening to Sunday Service, like headphones on and my monitors on, and I want to understand what the vocal arrangement does when you play it in this space in your head versus on the speakers versus in my car. Like that's kind of the way I find myself wanting to be influenced. Other than that, like I try to not really emulate things, because like either I disappoint myself severely and then I hate it, or I find myself getting bored and like naturally wanting to create something very different. Like where did we go wrong? I think a lot of its success is attributed to the fact that a lot of people can say it sounds like anything, and that's kind of the point.
That's so true.
Testing. I don't know anybody that sounds Sturvy. I don't know anybody that sounds like that. You know, when you see Testing's music video, there's obviously going to be like a link between Teyana Taylor's Work That Pussy and the drag scene. But at the same time, you'll be able to look at it and be like, to a point, that I can see that it's in a genre, but they don't speak to each other, other than the fact that there's like a similarity of the subject being, but it's completely different energy that's being communicated. So I would say growing up, Brandy, Mariah Carey's like Honey album, you know, like that type of like old school. I don't know. And then Diana Krall. Oh, so if anybody like ever wants to like listen to a good jazz album, Diana Krall's Live in Paris. That also changed my mind about being a female singing pianist, because she had a very low voice. Toni Braxton was another one, because Toni Braxton was the first time I heard a woman sing low, and I don't have a soprano voice. I've got like an alto voice, and so it's just like let it flow, let it flow. I was just like, girl, we both there. And it also like gave me that, it was again asking for permission of like what type of singer I can be. So when I listened to Diana Krall, I was like 13, 14. And she's got like really great Christmas songs, and it's like that perfect quintessential jazz piano album. You can picture the fireplace and being rich in the Hamptons. And yeah, she's given me like a different idea of like what being a jazz singer is. So yeah, those are my influences. I think I like females that are slightly outside of the norm. Rosalia is somebody that I find inspiration. I just love the fact that she can be like really authentic culturally, and then have that expand and be translated to the world. And they're just like, I don't know what you're saying, but it looks good, it feels good, it sounds good. So
do you feel that there like needs to be sort of that sort of balance? Because I know what you're saying is that you want your music to be relatable to everybody, but like with with testing is probably it's very specifically like Cape Townian type music video that you were looking at, or the Cape Townian drag scene. So do you think it's important to kind of like merge it to like represent specifics while also being
I used to, and I think the person that changed my mind about that was Youngster, funny enough, because like he's so unapologetically Cape Townian, and he's just like, for whose comfort must I adapt this vision? You know,
looks so well for
and that is again like it's again permission to be yourself. Funny enough, that I think has been my biggest theme. Like one time in my therapist, like wrapping up a session, she's like, Dani, a lot of the issues that you find in life would disappear if you actually just accept who you are as a person. And I was like, bitch, I didn't come for you like this. What? She's like, anyway, the session's done. Bye. Standing there looking at my screen in silence. But the more I take stock of that one lesson, the more I actually see, like when I adopt that, the anxiety of pitching up to a performance dissolves. I don't need any other external expectations to like worry about disappointing other than my own, which is already like driving me into the ground with anxiety. And yeah, I think like I hope I'm always able to be like super authentic, super unapologetic of what my creative influence is. Is it palatable to an overseas? Because at the end of the day, if you tell the simple story of guy meets girl, it could be in Antarctica and it wouldn't matter. I would relate to that. you have Asian movies winning like best screenplay at the Oscars nowadays. So I kind of feel like I'm enjoying the fact that like what COVID did is that it gave us the real answer that rules don't exist, even the rules of economics. Like they were just like, nope, we can just put a pause, or we can just like wave debt away all of a sudden. And I'm like, people have been asking you that shit for years. You can make 500 billion USD appear out of nowhere. Like, since when? You said you can't print more money just for the sake of it. Now you're just showing us you can this whole time.
So tell me, like, when is your EP being released?
So I'm going to say early next year.
Okay.
Because we've got a really, 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 really amazing song called Close, featuring Core Drink. And I want to give it like the best time. We were supposed to release it before the end of this year. And the way COVID's going, I'm not going to encourage people to be at the jaw. I'm not going to add to the chaos. I'm joking. So I want to do the EP out, I would say end of Jan. I just want people to be in the offices to reply to emails, if I can actually be very honest. That's the only thing. That's the only reason I'm not doing it in December, and why I'm not going to do too early in January, is that people don't reply to it. So I want to get people like get back into the fact that 2021 is now starting, and then you're going to see a submission from Dani Bagel, and then you're going to press play. But what's quite cool is like there's 5 songs on the EP. Every one of them has like a movie that we've shot for it. Like either it's like a prologue, or I've got the intro to the whole EP of like in this amazing gown in the forest, like this little nymph, and I'm reading poetry, and it's just like, it's all so self-indulgent. I can't wait for people to see it.
It's amazing.
I was really inspired. So I was inspired by Beyonce. So her birthday is the day before mine, right? And have you got the pattern app? Very hard.
Yes, I have.
You've got the pattern, right? So as a natural psychopath, like I obviously ran our bonds, and it told me that Beyonce is a very like important energy in my life, and she guides me as a friend, and she shows me, this is obviously the fact that we obviously are best friends already, and she's a very important person in my life that shows me what is the potential of my own. And so I really like found myself watching Black is King this year. Do you remember the movie Fantasia?
Yes.
I was very young so I had a VCR of it, right? And so you remember Fantasia wasn't like very talky, a lot of classical music telling stories, but it was like really beautiful too. And I was so obsessed with this thing. And I watched Black is King with those types of eyes and be like, what would my 5-year-old reaction be to this like beautiful piece of work? And then I was like thinking deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and going into this like rabbit hole. And I was like, even COVID prohibited the most powerful artist on the planet from being a touring artist.
Yeah.
And yet she was still able to reach her fans. She was still able to make an impact in the art world. And on a commercial level, she was a director for a Disney movie and a bitch got paid. So that was the take home I got from that. That's kind of where this EP and all of these art things is like, I do a lot of the creative direction. I do a lot of the ideas of coming up with like what the styling and the makeup and the mood and the execution and the rollout and the digital strategy. Like I'm combining my corporate experience with myself as the product that I'm selling at the end of the day. And that's quite a cool exercise to really, you know, perfect it on like a personal brand level, but just like I think on mastering the art of selling things, because the higher you get up and the more money you're going to pay, like want to make, you're going to have to be the person that's selling shit. Like Kim is on there doing my Skims collection for winter, and then it's the spring one, and you're just like, how many versions of a nude panty do we need? And the answer is all of them, because now we need one with the thigh cut and the one with the high cut but the bottom line is like, you have to be able to know how to sell and how to connect and what the journey and the story that you want to tell. And if I really plan on having my music relevant or having any person press play other than my mother or myself, I'm gonna have to know how to like pull all those pieces together. So watching Black is King, I was like, I want to always be able to have an avenue of like my creative outlet. The internet is just like the most easy to access vehicle that gets you across the world, and you know, places that you normally never visit. So I have the idea of sending it out there. And then I was watching a lot of Rihanna, so that's like my other inspiration. I actually sound like a little bit psychotic, like have posters of these people's faces on my room. But I was watching the Savage Fenty fashion show, and I laugh at like when I see people like hounding Rihanna for like, where's your album? And I'm like, my brew, when she was on stage and because she was under contract to sing, what is the one thing we were like, what are you doing? Why are you touring? Why are you singing? Why are you? I'm like, we used to rag on this chick because like, again, not the best singer, but she made good music, you know? And now she's a fucking billionaire who doesn't have any contractual obligations. She doesn't owe you guys shit.
Exactly.
Other than just being the person that is just like, I feel like venturing down the path of being a high fashion, you know, label or a lingerie or like putting on shows for Savage Fenty, and you know, and I love seeing the types of things that like these really, really powerful women can put forward when they allow that space of collaboration. Like that's what I see is very different in that female dynamic. When you look at what Beyonce at the helm or Rihanna at the helm is like, there's a lot more inclusivity. There's a lot more like, come pull up a chair, you know, let's dish you a plate also. Whereas like in the guy space, it's like, oh, you gotta own it. You know, I don't know why I've got this accent. Felt a little racist. But you just there's just always the toxicity of having to like put yourself forward and who asked you to be here. And I kind of take advantage sometimes of like being the only female in my space or being the only girl on set and being like, the reason why you guys didn't see this is because you don't have a female on, like you can see when there's not been a female on set, you know, or a female that's had a music female artist that doesn't have another woman in studio. Because I'm like, which girl would let you sing about that? You know, it's the equivalent of like, I would never let you walk with lipstick on your teeth, you know? And that's where I've like built the courage, like in studio, if I'm sitting in another artist session, I'd be like, are you sure you want to sing it like that? Like your voice doesn't sound as strong as it could be, or try a different word, or your mouth doesn't hold that one as well. And like, that's the type of obsessive compulsive Virgo perfectionism that like actually works sometimes, where you need me to like improve you.
I feel like Beyonce has that energy too. She definitely gives
100%. I'm pretty sure like that you know, the Devil Wears Prada is like, why is no one ready? Even in that like very muted. I actually decided from now on to be taken more seriously. I'm gonna start whispering and just kind of wonder where this takes me. If I drop my volume like just a little bit, I feel like I could be very terrifying. When I'm a boss one day, just never gonna talk louder than them. and see how much work gets done faster.
People are like, what? I didn't hear you say that.
Go bore someone else with your questions. I can't wait.
I love it. Okay, Dani, wait. Okay, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for chatting to me. This was a lot of fun. I did not know you could do so many funny voices.
Me neither.
That was our interview with Dani Bagel. You can find her at Miss Dani Bagel on Twitter and Dani Bagel on Instagram. And you can find her music on Spotify at Dani Bagel. Links to everything we discussed, as well as her music, will be in the show notes. This week, I've been crashing on game shows. So it's been a bit of a weird week for me. I've been super busy and I just wanted to watch something mindless and fun. So, and I've also, my internet's been down. I just got a new TV. So I've been watching a lot of game shows on Comedy Central, such as Match Game with Alec Baldwin and Funny You Should Ask, which Match Game is where normal people, they try and complete a sentence, and then there's a group of celebs or comedians who also try and complete it, and then the one who matches with them, they get more points, something like that. And then Funny You Should Ask, they ask a question and the celebrity answers it, and then the contestants have to work out if it's true or false. Really, I mean, brainless fun, so amazing. Also been watching a lot of QI. But other than that, I've been listening to a lot of music. I am obsessed with Taylor Swift's new album, Evermore. Taylor Swift has been doing such great work this year. Between Folklore and Evermore, I mean, I'm in love. I am enamored with her music. And I'm so glad that she decided to bless us with this. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to. I've also, Britney Spears has some new music out. In particular, she has one called Matches with Backstreet Boys. And I mean, if you want something that's nostalgic AF, that is definitely the album for you. I love Britney so much, and you know, I just want to see her do well and to be healthy and be happy and be independent. So yeah, that's all from me. You can find me at Karen Walby on Instagram, at Karen Walbys with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter Wild Streams at wildstreams.substack.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on YouTube at WhatIGN Crashing On. The podcast can be found at Crashing On Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crashingonpodcast.com, and send any feedback to crashingonpod@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Crashing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. Let us know what you think about what was discussed in this week's episode by sending us a voice note or email to crashingonpod@gmail.com. The show is produced by me, Karen, and Rebecca Barches. The show is edited and engineered by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Latifa Maroof. And the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can, any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then!